Hello and Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope everyone's fine and that you're following our videos. So, in today's video, we are going to talk about skill set 7. Skill set 7 is called University Days. So, the theme of this skill set is humor and the topic is memories. I'm sure that humor and memories are related in so many ways, and that there are so many memories which bring joy to you, which bring happiness to you, which make you think about good times that you have spent at your university. And of course, in this short period that you were at Sakaraibi campus, I'm sure that you have made many memories, and many of them would include humor in it. And when you remember or when you recall those memories, I'm sure that they bring joy to you. So, in today's skill set, we are going to have a reading, which is a narrative essay, and the theme is humor. So, basically, this skill set is all about very light-hearted comedy kind of a write-up, which makes you smile, which makes you laugh, which makes you recall, different things that have been going on in the writers' university days. And I'm sure that after reading this, you would also recall some beautiful moments that you have spent in your classrooms. So let's go ahead and see what this skill set is all about. So this skill set is written by an American humorist, James Thurber. He was a famous humorist and a satirist, also a cartoonist. He was alive in the time period of 1894 to 1961. And this particular essay that he has written, or this particular draft that we are going to see today, is about his university days. So let's see what kind of fun did this writer have. So before going on, let's talk about humor in literature. What is humor? Humor is a literary tool that makes audiences laugh or that intends to induce amusement or laughter. Its purpose is to break the monotony and boredom and make the audience's nerves relax. The writer uses different techniques, tools, words, and even full sentences in order to bring to light new and funny sides of life. It might seem very easy, um, but it's actually a very difficult task to include humor in literature because life is full of so many ups and downs that often we forget to highlight the light sides of our life, the funny sides of different things. So it's very difficult to bring life to those moments and to bring in humor in any piece of writing, which is not only humorous for the author who's writing it, but it also is humorous for others or for other general audiences and the readers. And it's a really difficult task, but there are many humorists, and it's a very significant genre of literature, and we find a lot of work in it. So humor is often found in literature. It's found in theater, in movies and advertising, where the major purpose is to make audience happy. Isn't that one of the most difficult tasks in life, to make people happy? So let's see, what do we have? Reading and discussion. Now let's go to the reading of this skill set and see what this is all about. I would suggest you to kindly open your books on page number, hold on, I'll just show it to you. So we'll just start with page number 120. Page number 120, and in your English skills book. So let's see, what do we have here? Let's read it together. Skill set 7 on page number 120. So here it is. Some keywords. Enraged means angered. That means when you're angry over something. Deferred pass, here it means dropped an academic year. That means he had to sort of freeze 1 year and then come back and study it again, or maybe, flunked an academic year. He dropped in that particular academic year and then he had to repeat it. Constellation is group of stars, and tackle means a key player in football. All right. So let's see what the text is all about. Since it's a narrative essay, you will see that the narration is in first person and it starts with I passed all the other courses that I took at university, but I could never pass botany. This was because all botany students had to spend several hours a week in a laboratory looking through a microscope at plant cells, and I could never see through a microscope. I never once saw a cell through a microscope. This used to enrage my instructor. He would wander around the laboratory, pleased with the progress all the students were making in drawing the structure of a flower cells until he came to me. I would just be standing there. I can't see anything, I would say. He would begin patiently enough, explaining how anybody can see through a microscope. But he would always end up in a fury, claiming that I could too see through a microscope, but just pretended that I couldn't. It takes away the beauty of flowers anyway, I used to tell him. We are not concerned with beauty in this course, he would say. We are concerned solely with what I may call the mechanics of flowers. Well, I'd say, I can't see anything. Try it just once, he would say, and I would put my eye on the microscope and see nothing at all, except now and again a nebulous milky substance. This, he claimed, was the result of my not having adjusted the microscope properly. So he would readjust it for me, and I would look again and see milk. So we see that in these 15 sentences, the author is trying to create a scenario in front of us where he's telling that how in his university he had passed all the subjects, but he could never pass botany. The reason being, botany is the study of plants. So he would say that those students who had to take botany, they had to spend several hours in a week in the laboratory, and they had to look through a microscope at plant cells because they are studying plants. So, but this author said that I could never see through a microscope. And the instructor would get so angry, he would get furious because he thought that I'm only pretending. Because anyone, any student, anyone who would look through a microscope would be able to see the plant cell. But this author couldn't. The author couldn't. And so he says that he said to the instructor that, what's the whole point of looking at a plant like that? It takes away the beauty. But then the instructor said, we are not concerned with the beauty. We are concerned with the mechanics of the flower, the way it is made. But then the author says that he would readjust the microscope because I couldn't see anything. But still, all he could see was very hazy and very nebulous kind of a substance, very milky. Okay. So that's how he's trying to tell you how, in a particular course at the university, how he used to face a difficulty, and how that was a very light-hearted, funny moment because throughout the course with this teacher, he was not able to pass botany at all. Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. I finally took a deferred pass, as they call it, and waited a year and tried again. So the author he took a year off and then he came again in the next year and he tried again. Maybe this time he could pass. Let's see. You had to pass one of the biological sciences or you couldn't graduate. The problem was it was a compulsory subject. He had to pass it. The professor had come back from vacation to explain cell structure again to his class. Well, he said to me cheerily, when we met in the first laboratory hour of the semester, we are going to see the cells this time, aren't we? Yes, sir, I said. Students to the right of me and to the left of me and in front of me were seeing cells. What's more, they were quietly drawing pictures of them in their notebooks. Of course, I didn't see anything. We'll try it, the professor said to me grimly. With every adjustment of the microscope known to men. As God is my witness, I'll arrange this glass so that you see cells through it, or I'll give up teaching. He genuinely wished to hold on to his temper. So now this is the moment where it's been a year. The student has come back again. Everyone around him, the entire class can see through a microscope and can look at a cell. But our dear author is not able to do it. So what the professor said was, well, I would try my level best to all at every adjustment that is known to men. I would try to do everything possible, and I would try to adjust in any ways it's possible so that you could look through it and you could look at the cell. And he was trying to hold on to his anger, his temper. So we tried it. That means we here means the author and the professor. So we tried it with every adjustment of the microscope known to man. With only one of them did I see anything but blackness. And that time I saw, to my pleasure and amazement, a variegated constellation of flecks, specks, and dots. These I hastily drew. So he finally was able to see something and he quickly tried to draw it in his notebook. The instructor, noting my activity, came back from the adjoining desk, a smile on his lips and his eyebrows high in hope. He looked at my cell drawing. What's that? He demanded. That's what I saw, I said. You didn't! You didn't! You didn't! He screamed, losing control of his temper instantly, and he bent over the microscope. His head snapped up. That's your eye! He shouted. You've fixed the lens so that it reflects. You've drawn your eye. So, this dear student was finally happy that he could see something after a whole year's progress, what he was able to see is his own eye, because that's how the microscope was adjusted. He had set it at a setting where it was reflecting and he could see his eye. And that's what he drew in his notebook. So, of course, how do you think the professor is going to react? He was really furious. Okay, moving on, he then talks about another course. Another course that I didn't like but somehow managed to pass was economics. I went to that class straight from the botany class, which didn't help me any in understanding either subject. I used to get them mixed up, but not as mixed up as another student in my economics class who came there direct from a physics laboratory. So now we see that here another person has been introduced. There is a new character that the author is now talking about. He's going to talk about another student and how it was more difficult for that particular student to pass this particular subject, which is economics. So up till now we have talked about botany class and the author's memories of it. Now we have another student that the author is introducing us to, and the subject or the class that we're going to talk about, the course that he's talking about, is economics. So, and this person is coming directly from a physics laboratory. So let's see what's happening. He was a tackle on the football team named Robert. If you remember from the keywords, tackle means a key player. So in the football team, he's a key player. His name is Robert, and it's very difficult for him to pass economics. Now, I think we are going to have a little scene from the economics class, and the author has tried to portray that scene or try to relive that memory of the university days with Robert in economics class. So let's see what it is. In order to be eligible to play, it was necessary for him to keep up in his studies, a very difficult matter, for while he was not dumber than an ox, he was not any smarter. So he was not a very bright student. That's what it means. Most of his professors were lenient and helped him along. None gave him more hints in answering questions or asked him simpler ones than the economics professor, a thin, timid man named Mr. Bassett. So now he has introduced another character, another instructor. His name is Mr. Bassam, and Mr. Bassam is very lenient with Robert. Now, the scenario is we have a football player who is very good at sports, but in order to stay in order to play in that team, in order to stay in that team, he has to keep up with his studies. If his studies are compromised, then it's going to be difficult for him to play as well. That's some sort of a policy at the university. So now, and it's very difficult for him to keep up in his studies because he's not a very bright student. The author tells us that many professors, or most of the professors, they were very lenient with him. They were trying to help him along so that, this guy is very good at sports and okay, let's just help him out. But none of them was more lenient or more helpful than our dear Mr. Bassam, who was teaching him economics. Now, let's see what happens one day. One day, when we were on the subject of transportation and distribution, it came Robert's turn to answer a question. Name one means of transportation, the professor said to him. No light came into the big tackle's eyes. Just any means of transportation, said the professor. Robert sat staring at him. That is, pursued the professor, any medium, agency, or method of going from one place to another. Robert had the look of a man who is being led into a trap. You may choose among steam, horse drawn, or electrically propelled vehicles, said the instructor. I might suggest the one which we commonly take in making long journeys across the land. There was a profound silence in which everybody stirred uneasily, including Robert and Mr. Bessem. Mr. Bessem abruptly broke the silence in an amazing manner. Choo, 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 he said in a low voice and turned instantly scarlet. Now you look at this, look at the condition of the teacher who has asked such a simple question, and he is trying to give as many hints as possible to this dearest student who is feeling very uncomfortable and is sort of thinking that I'm being, led into a trap. I'm being asked a question that I cannot answer. However, that's not it. This is a very easy question asking somebody, tell us any means of transportation, any vehicle. It could be steam propelled, could be electric, could be could be horse drawn, or any vehicle, he said. And he's giving him so many hints, but this dear student is not able to reply. So Mr. Bassam is now including sounds and acting, and he's telling him, and so that he recognizes the sound of that vehicle, and he instantly is turning red now because it's very uncomfortable. You see, this is a moment where the entire class knows the answer. Have you ever experienced something like this in your class where all of you know this answer? The hints are so easy. You're just being so uncomfortable in your seats. You are sort of jumping in the air and raising your hands that please, 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 ma'am, ask me. Please, sir, ask me. I know this answer. And the student that you're asking, sometimes it just doesn't cross their mind. So this is that very same moment in the one of the days in the economics class. Okay, so let's see what happens next. He glanced appealingly around the room. Toot, 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 toot. Some student with a deep voice moaned, and we all looked encouragingly at Robert. Now see how all the students are trying to look at him, trying to encourage him, trying to give him the answer with their eyes. Somebody else gave a fine imitation of a locomotive letting off steam. So now somebody has actually imitated a locomotive or a vehicle that is letting off steam. Mr. Bassam himself rounded off the little show. Ding dong, he said hopefully. After all these hints, now he's very hopeful that now Robert would be able to answer. Robert was staring at the floor now, trying to think, his great brow furrowed. his huge hands rubbing together, his face red. Imagine that poor student. How did you come to college this year, Mr. Robert? Asked the professor. Shufa, 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 Shufa. Um, Father sent me, said the football player. What on? Asked Mr. Bessem. I got an allowance, said the tackle in a low, husky voice, obviously embarrassed. I was asking, how did you come to university? And he said, my father sent me. What on? He said, I got some money. And he's very embarrassed because he thinks that what kind of questions are these? No, no, said Bessem. Name a means of transportation. What did you ride here on? The question couldn't have been any clearer. Let's see what does Robert say. Train, said Robert. Train, echoed the class. That's what they're trying to tell him. It's a train. They've been imitating, they've been making sounds, they've been giving him hints, and that's where the answer lied. Quite right, said the professor. So you see how beautifully this memory has been recreated by James Thurber, whose name is written right here at the end of the text. So now in this particular narrative essay, we see that James Thurber talks about his university days, and he talks about two different classes. One is a personal experience with the botany teacher or the botany class, and then there's another experience of one of his classmates named Robert, who was a football player, and the course is of economics. And both of these incidents are very funny and they're very humorous, and we see that the author has written beautifully and effortlessly. So, dear students, that was the reading and discussion of our skill set 7. I hope that you understand it. Let's now move on to the exercises. I'm sure that you would have by now, you would have understood the whole unit. Let's see what exercises do we have. The first is reading for the main idea. Tick the correct answers. We have 4 MCQs and we have to choose one answer for each. So the most difficult subject for the narrator was, as we know, it was botany. Zoology, no, we have not been told anything about zoology or chemistry. We have the author has discussed about botany and economics, but since economics was more difficult for Robert, botany is the correct answer because that's what the narrator has talked about in the first half of this text. Moving on, the most difficult subject for Robert was this was the second half of the essay, and that is economics. We have not been told anything about mathematics and statistics, so we will omit these two options, A and B. As far as botany is concerned, Robert and botany, there's no connection because in botany's class, Robert was not present. That's why economics. And of course, this whole the last half of the text is about economics class with Mr. Bassam. So we would choose C. Compared to their respective classes, the academic ability of the two students was, now we have to compare these two students with the rest of the class. How were they? Were they better? Were they poorer? Were they equal or higher? Now, better and higher mean the same thing, and we know that they were not better than other students or higher than other students. Then we are left with option B and C, which is poorer and equal. Had they been equal, of course, they wouldn't have faced difficulty, or the author wouldn't have taken a deferred pass, right? Or all this entire scene of the locomotive question wouldn't have happened if Robert was also equal in understanding, equal to all other students. So of course they were poorer in terms of their academic ability. So the correct answer is B. The last MCQ is, while recalling his university days, the narrator is A, feeling sorry for himself, B, enjoying his memories, C, criticizing his teacher, D, making fun of his fellow students. We know that he's not feeling sorry. He's reliving those moments happily. Then we have C, where it says criticizing his teacher. He's not. He has been very supportive of the teachers. He has been saying very good words about his teachers. And then we say, when we say making fun of his fellow student, now we do know that he spoke about a fellow student, but he has not made fun of him, right? He has, in fact, enjoyed the memories. So the correct option is B, enjoying his memories. All right. So that was reading for main idea. Then we have reading for details. Which of the following statements are true and which are false? Rewrite the false statements so that they become correct. I have sort of indicated which ones are true and which ones are false. And once we discuss them, you'll also sort of rewrite the statements again. During the botany lab, students had to look for skin cells. It's false because they had to look for plant cells. Right. Then we have botany teaches you about the beauty of flowers. Remember where the author said that, well, looking at them through microscope takes away the beauty, and the instructor said, well, we are not concerned with the beauty of flowers in this course. We are concerned with what we call mechanics of flower. So of course, this is a false statement. The correct statement would be botany teaches us or teaches you about the mechanics of flowers. All right. The narrator could not see the cells. That's true. The narrator had to repeat the botany course. That is also true because he had taken a deferred pass and came back next year. Robert was a bright student. We know that's a false statement because Robert was not a very bright student. Robert's class fellows did not help him. Oh, that's a false statement because all his class fellows were very helpful. Remember, one of them even imitated one locomotive that was letting off steam. So, all of them were very helpful along with the instructor. So, this again is a false statement. All right, students. So, this was exercise C and D. Let's have a look at exercise E, meaning and context. Match the words and expressions in column A with their meanings in column B. Wander around means walk about. Pretended means acted as if. Variegated is having many colors. Concerned with is interested in. Fury is rage. Mechanics is the physical structure. Nebulous is hazy or vague. Eligible is fit to be chosen. Means is medium, agency, or method. Remember that description by the author, by the instructor. He said that means medium, agency, or method. Scarlet is red. Propelled is driven. And allowance is a limited sum of money. So these are the expressions that mean the same. That means these are synonyms. All right. Then we have second question number 2 of exercise E, which is match the words and expressions in column A with their opposites in column B. Now we have antonyms. So let's see. Pleased with is not happy with. The opposite of pleased with is not happy with something. Pleased with means happy with something. Cheerily is the opposite is grimly. Give up, continue to do. Number 4, genuinely. The opposite is not sincerely because genuinely means sincerely. Hold on to, lose control of something. Okay, that's the opposite of it, or that's the antonym. Number 6 is hastily. The opposite is slowly. Dumb. The opposite is smart. Get mixed up. Something that gets mixed up. On the other hand, the opposite would be understand clearly. Uneasily, the opposite would be comfortably. Lenient, that means very easy or very, very flexible. The opposite would be strict. And lastly, the word is abruptly, and the opposite is deliberately. Abruptly means something that happens very quickly, something that happens all of a sudden, and but then on the other hand, the opposite would be deliberately. All right, dear students. So those were the exercises that we just discussed. These exercises were on page number 122 and 123. Please go back to or refer back to these exercises in your book and tally your answers as well. Now, there's one more exercise that we need to discuss, which is exercise F on page number 123. This is reading for inference and interpretation. So, reading for inference and interpretation is reading between the lines, or making meaning out of the knowledge that is already the details that are already given to you, making some other interpretations out of it, keeping in mind the realities that have been told to you. Sometimes you need to answer beyond what is written based on your understanding of it. Okay. For example, if I say the correct answer was two, I can interpret that all of the answers were incorrect, right? Although it's not written, but I would sort of interpret that, well, if two is the correct answer, then all of the answers are incorrect. That's how you interpret from the details that are given to you, right? And inference is reading between the lines. That means understanding the hidden meanings, understanding the meanings in the text that are given to you, right? So let's see, we have some questions here. We have only 4 questions, which makes it very easy to discuss. Let's see. The first question is, why did the narrator have to take a deferred pass? Now, you have read this entire unit with me. You have read the whole skill set. And as I have tried to discuss the skill set as well, what do you think? Why did he have to take a deferred pass? Remember, deferred pass means he had to um, sort of drop that 1 year and come back later next year to read the same course. What do you think? Why did he have to do it? Well, I would try to give you some hints, and then I would ask you to write your own answers, because it's always good to experiment with words and try to make answers on your own, because see, it's not we don't teach this way. I mean, even in our classes we don't give you printed notes for something, isn't that so? So we have discussed the whole unit, but I would really like you to write your own answers, but I would again give you some hints of what could be the possible answers. Now, what I think is he had to take a deferred pass because A, he was not very good at the subject, B, because he had to, pass those laboratory hours. They had to, it was necessary in that course to it was necessary in that course to complete those number of hours in the laboratory. And of course, you just don't have to go and sit in the laboratory. You also have to do something. You have to complete the tasks or the experiments, which he was not able to do. So even though the teacher was very friendly and nice, but of course, the author himself had to put in more effort in the subject. And because he was not able to pass it, and in order to graduate, he had to pass that course. So that is why he took a deferred pass and came back next year to try his luck one more time, right? So that could be some pointers that you may include in your answer. Second is, what information do you gather about Robert from the text? Remember Robert, the football player? Right. So what information do we gather? We gather that his name is Robert. We know that he is a very good football player. He's a tackle. That means he's a key player. Yeah, he's at the university's football team, and that it's not easy for him to pass economics. We also gather that he takes another course, which is, I think, physics, because he was coming from the physics laboratory, and that in terms of academic ability, we see that Robert is a little poorer than all other students in his class, and we see that he is kind of embarrassed easily. So all these things, all this information, I'm trying to sum up the entire last half of the narrative essay, where the where we are told about Robert and the economics class with Mr. Bassam. So these are the pieces of information that I have gathered. If you have something else to add to it, I would be very happy to read your answers. So please go ahead and write your answer and then share those answers with us in the comment section. Number three is, what was the attitude of the botany teacher towards the narrator? What was the attitude of the botany teacher? Now we're going back to the first incident, because we're talking about the narrator and the botany class. What was the attitude of botany teacher? I think he was very kind. I think he was helpful. I think he was very friendly. I think he was trying to control his temper, because if you have a student who is repeating a course, then you're very humble to them, you're very helpful to them. Of course, we're helpful to all the students, but then if there's somebody who's repeating a course with the freshers again, so you sort of try to help them more this time, because we really want our students to succeed. So I think that's what is going on in the teacher's mind as well. His attitude is very friendly, very helpful. He also, remember that very paragraph where he said, where he says that he'll try to make all the adjustments known to men, all the adjustments of the microscope. So he's trying his level best to help our narrator pass this course. All right. The last question is, how did the economics teacher treat Robert? Now we're talking about Mr. Bassam and we're talking about the economics class. How did that teacher treat Robert? I think, like our botany teacher, the economics teacher was also very helpful. He was very kind. He was very lenient. He was the most lenient of all, I would say, because that's how the author has described him. That many students, many professors would, most of the professors would help Robert, but there was no one more lenient or no one more helping than our economics teacher. So he treated Robert very kindly, very leniently. He also played an important role in Robert's life, I would say, in his class. The way he was trying to uplift his morale, or trying to give him confidence when apparently he was being very embarrassed. So I think that the economics teacher has played a huge role here. He has treated Robert really nicely. So these are my impressions of the details that we've been asked for, or my understanding of the text. I'm sure that you would make meaning out of the text, and you would reread the entire skill set, and you would also come up with more pointers. Of course, these are just the hints. I would request you to go through the reading once again, try to highlight, try to underline, try to make note of any other difficult words, any other phrases that are new to you. So please make meaning of it, not just what is written, but also what goes beyond that, so that you can answer questions of exercise F on page 123 that are of inference and interpretation. So, my dear students, with this, I would like to conclude Skill Set 7 University Days. I really hope that the video is helpful and that you are now one step closer to your preparation for the final exams. We are waiting for you at Sakraibi University. We are waiting for the days when you come and meet all of us, inshallah, soon, inshallah, in February, mid February. Let's hope for the best. Please take care of yourself, all of you. Take care and have a great day. Thank you, Allah Hafiz.